most enlightenment traditions talk about this experience of naturalness after enlightenment, of being natural, the uh, the ordinary simplicity of it. And being able to access naturalness now is a way to train that state, or at least create a bridge, or prepare one's experience or mode of experiencing for enlightenment or awakening or just general human health, psychological health. Naturalness might even be something that we shouldn't have to work for, but the way our society is, um, engenders so much toxicity in the school and work and economic systems, and therefore every slice of life is touched by the core toxicity, which involves degrading us, degrading our naturalness, so it's inaccessible, but actually it's really obvious. So, what is naturalness? What does it mean to be natural? It's subtle and nuanced and a bit slippery, because everything we're being is already natural, and there are ways in which we're having the experience of resisting naturalness and being natural. So, for example, I'm with I'm hanging out with a woman that I am attracted to, let's say. And I'm a bit nervous or shy. I say something and it seems silly and I feel embarrassed about it because I want to control how I'm coming off. I want to control how I'm showing up and how she's seeing me. So one perspective is that I'm being unnatural because I'm trying to control, and I'm not okay with how I show up. That is outside of that character I'm trying to show, that vibe I'm trying to create. But I'm not even concerned with that unnaturalness. That's like a small scale unnaturalness. The truth is, like, we're going to experience a lot of that. We're going to experience a lot of, especially as we become more self aware, we're going to become more aware of and observe ourselves being unnatural in these small ways. Um, or we could maybe say inauthentic, momentarily inauthentic. We're going to see that more and more and more. And it's an easy trap to for me to then see that and then contract and then have a story that I did something bad, or I did something like there's an uh-oh. That's a that's just another way to be unnatural, is to uh-oh about my unnatural instances. And of course that's why the ego's slippery. That's part of what spiritual ego can be. It's not just grandiose inflation, spiritual ego. It's also You did the thing wrong. You know, you're meditating, you had a thought. It's like bad. That's spiritual ego too. A little aside, there's for me there's a little point. It's actually unhelpful and burdensome to call anything spiritual ego. It's just ego. Ego ego will apply to anything, including a spiritual pursuit or spiritual realizations, right? The ego will take the form and become a fake character to represent anything that happens within the world or in like more otherworldly influences. The ego will shapeshift. And it's not really shapeshifting because it's not a thing. It's just a bunch of programs popping up. So spiritual ego tends to like create just another separation. Um, it's not. It's no different. Metaphorically speaking, it can be convenient to call it spiritual ego, but it's not actually some existent thing besides regular ego. And of course, even regular ego is a metaphor. There's no ego. There's just phenomena. Um, that we can collect and call ego. Back to naturalness. The the big unnaturalness in that scenario where I'm with a woman that I'm attracted to and I do or say something that I feel embarrassed about. It's not just the little uh-oh, that sort of reaction to the reaction, that meta unnaturalness of uh-ohing my discomforts, my embarrassments, but it's the overall mood and tone of there is a problem. So this is what I call problem consciousness. It's not inherently a problem that I was trying to come off a certain way to a person for a certain goal and I failed at that, or I did something which was not in line with that goal, or I did something which actually counteracted that goal, like I made myself look like a fool when I'm trying to look not like a fool. Yes, making myself look like a fool in that situation goes against my goal, but that's not a problem until and unless I color that lens of my experience, of my self observation, that it's a problem. And this is what I would call true unnaturalness, or at least what I refer to when I say unnatural. I put a few different ways. Mistakes are natural, presupposing that mistakes are bad is unnatural. On the road to some pursuit of success, failures are natural, as are successes. To think that I'm to never fail is unnatural. So it's moving a level out, a level of abstraction out. It's going meta. Naturalness and unnaturalness is more of a meta thing. What's my attitude toward what happens in my life? Do I have a natural attitude? Do I roll with the punches? Do I roll with my mistakes? There is a way, there's a state of being that can be temporary or it can be consistent, which feels like flowingness. I call that naturalness. where I'm okay with not feeling okay. I'm succeeding even when I'm failing. I'm on track even when I'm making mistakes. I'm okay even when I'm not okay. You see? It's about levels. It's very helpful for advancing our mind in our evolution to think of levels. And of course, this is why a lot of talking about inner work, as we evolve, in my opinion, one of two things happens. We either become more complex in our speaking, kind of like I'm doing now. I'm speaking about the levels, I'm being like careful with the words. I'm forced to be more complex because if I wasn't, uh, this there'd be more room for misinterpretation of what I'm saying. And of course, there will be anyway. No one could perfectly interpret what I'm saying in the way that I actually mean it. So we develop the ability to be more complex in our thinking, in our speaking, in our explanations, or we stop talking about these things so much. We give up hope that we can be understood. And past a certain point, it's our IQ is gonna cap out, and we're like, I experience often like and doesn't feel degrading to me. I'm not intelligent enough to explain what I'm experiencing. I don't know how to create a mental version of this. I don't know how to convert this to language. And English is perhaps, from what I hear from other language speakers, English is like the best language for being specific. English is a very scientific language, has so many words that are very close to each other. You can really create um, complex poetry and scientific explanation with English. And even still, now actually the grammar is set up to not be able to involve paradox, and it has issues where it has a really rigid assumed subject and object relationship, which as we evolve starts to break down in our experience. I hear there's other languages that are better for that, like Japanese or Chinese, one of the Oriental languages. But yeah, so it's about the meta. Can you be natural while you're being unnatural? Can you just let it flow? Once there's a contraction, there's two ways to say this. There's an automatic contraction, and then I intentionally release it. Cool, good. But can you even play a higher level where can you already assume that it's okay that there's a contraction so you're not even responding or reacting to a contraction? It's nice to develop the automatic reaction to relax when you notice a contraction. Can you, can we, can I already hold space for both of those dualities of contract and relax and kind of not care what's coming? I don't care, or it's a dead end, it's a small game to give extra points for relaxation versus a contraction. It's not about that. I'm not trying to like, as they say in certain spiritual circles, like I'm not trying to fix my personality. I'm trying to wake up and be in alignment with what I am. I'm not trying to undo a lifetime of conditioning in a toxic society. and maybe I can do that later on in life, but when I have a higher perspective and I have more ability to reprogram. But for now, when I'm trying to escape it, it's mostly futile. So what I can do is have the grit, have the guts to stare my conditioning in the face, stare my trauma reactions in the face. Now, if it's like serious trauma, maybe that needs to be healed first. If it's really limiting. Um, if you get really activated and totally incapacitated, then yeah, that's the priority. But that's not everyone. Maybe I think that perhaps that's not the majority of people. And at least among um, like pretty advanced seekers, spiritual seekers, inner workers. So, and if you've had a taste of the beyond, if you've had a taste of what you might call truth, if you had glimpses, awakened glimpses, then that's enormously helpful, or at least it simplifies things because that's naturalness. In a way, like awakeness is, it's certainly not about well-being in the human sense. It's about naturalness, which ultimately leads to well-being generally, or it'll lead to the processes that need to take place for well-being to be a possibility. It opens a door. It generally doesn't solve any actual body mind problems, though it can as a bonus. But it's naturalness, and so if I have tasted that, then I there's an understanding in my psyche, in my system, even in my bones, in my cells, that a real disregard and loosened focus about what state is occurring, contraction or relaxation, because that's this might be hyperbole, but I'd say it's never ending. Like to try to address contractions, it's never ending. What is ending is if I'm going to have a resistant attitude, an unnatural existential posture toward my contractions, my relaxations, my good feelings, my bad feelings, my thoughts that I like, my thoughts that I really don't like. It takes grit, it takes guts, courage, and that's always going to be required. What also helps is understanding, which generally comes from having glimpses and tastes of true naturalness. And like regular meditation. I mean, there's a reason why for thousands of years there's just systems that involve meditating a lot, rigorous inner work, because this stuff changes the the nature of experience over time. Still requires guts and courage, which is why many monks throughout history didn't awaken, because it's not, you can do all the meditation, but that's not going to do it for you. It takes being willing to experience like this, all that's happening over time. It's long and drawn out generally too. So, yeah. Next, if you have social anxiety, for example, next time you're at a party, experience the social anxiety and like be like, flow with it. It's like, yeah, I'm enjoying being here. Like, if you like being social, if you like being at the party, it's like, yeah, I like being here, and I'm experiencing this, and like I'm showing up with it. And actually, you might realize like, oh wow, what a relief. Maybe you can actually handle. Maybe you know anxiety very well. Maybe you can actually handle a lot of anxiety. Maybe you've trained for decades to have anxiety in your body. Maybe you're actually pretty fucking strong and good at handling anxiety. You know how to stay open with anxiety. You can live with it, interact from it. You have permission to show up fully with any feeling. You don't owe your feelings anything. You don't owe your feelings being small. If you have anxiety, you don't owe that anxiety you tensing your body because you're anxious. Like, you can show up however you like with the anxiety. And of course, practically speaking, just like the trauma response, it's like, yeah, it might overtake you, your agency in that. And um, if there's even a little crack, if the door is even a little bit open for you to exist with that, then you can really start doing this work. It's not work. It's just what else is there to do? That's kind of what it comes to at a certain point. What else is there to do? The attitude of naturalness is available always. Wishing you all well. See you next time.